Hello there, everyone. I wanted to take a chance to share something a little personal today. I know that as a gay, millennial, Jewish, nonprofit worker, you're probably not thinking, well, that's your typical conservative. And perhaps it's not, but I am. And I think it's important to say that my becoming so was a journey, not a sudden revelation. It happened gradually through many experiences that slowly opened my eyes to what was happening around me. To start, let me take you back a number of years. Over the course of about 3 summers, I worked at a week-long camp for high school students. And our mission was absolutely beautiful. Bringing together young people from different backgrounds, celebrating our differences while finding our common humanity. And that's a big part of why I identified as a liberal. It was about building bridges, connecting people regardless of their background. In my mind at the time, conservatives spent more time being against things than speaking for being for anything. At the camp, one year we had a t-shirt that said, "Labels are for jars, not for people." And the message was simple. Stop reducing people to simple categories and stereotypes. Yes, different backgrounds and experiences led to different struggles, but we should see people as individuals with unique stories. Ultimately, we tried to show that we had more in common than we often thought. And the things that separated us didn't really need to do so. But over the years, I've watched as those principles have been completely flipped upside down. Suddenly, it wasn't about seeing beyond labels, it was about enforcing them. If you didn't have certain labels, you weren't allowed to speak about certain issues because you couldn't possibly understand. Any search for common ground was useless because the gulf between us was viewed as being too wide. The turning point for me started about a decade ago when I was told in no uncertain terms that I was a racist. Not because of my actions, but simply for how I was born. Despite working against racism, having relationships with people of all backgrounds, living across the world and crossing cultural boundaries, none of that seemed to matter. As a white man, my own struggles to succeed and my work to make the world a better place was inherently flawed. The people telling me this were doing so from a desire to educate me, and there was no hate in their voices. They believed it to be true, and they wanted me to understand. And I have to admit it was a hard pill to swallow, but I eventually did. Over the years, though, there came even more ideological demands from others that I encountered. Gender exists in infinite expressions. Capitalism is evil and destructive. America is founded on oppression. Privilege is determined solely by inherited traits like skin color or sex. In 2020, for many of us, everything began to change. Things started shutting down. People were scared. Many of us were trapped inside. And then came the protests. I am ashamed now how far left I swung politically. But that started to change relatively quickly when meeting the people behind these movements, because I opened my eyes. Watching one of my friends casually suggest lining up and unaliving Republicans, seeing sexual assault allegations ignored because they were politically inconvenient, because apparently it's Me Too unless they're blue. During the pandemic, I watched people who championed bodily autonomy suddenly demand compliance with mandated healthcare and laugh at the deaths of those who refuse to do so. Within hours of my own second shot, I ended up with my first ever migraine. It lasted so long that I ended up in the hospital days later. But even there, I struggled to get a straight answer about what happened to me. The doctor hedged. The nurse told it more like it was. It was the shot. The final straw for me was on October 7th, 2023. As a Jewish person, watching people celebrate an attack on Israel, deny documented atrocities, many of which were video recorded by those committing the acts, being called a genocide sympathizer and apartheid supporter simply for standing up for Israel's right to exist. Watching those on the left block Jewish students and protesters from entering campuses, it was too much. I realized that I couldn't stay silent anymore. The ideology that I once embraced for its openness had become exactly what it claimed to fight against. Angry, violent, canceling anyone who didn't maintain their vision of progressive orthodoxy, dehumanizing those on the other side, the constant purity tests, the inability to think independently, and the hatred and contempt for anyone who thinks differently. I had to walk away. I'm sharing this because I know that I'm not alone. If you are politically homeless right now, if you're questioning the narrative, if you're tired of the hatred and the division, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to think for yourself. You can love others and disagree with them. The Democratic Party and the rest of the left may tell you otherwise, but there is more than one way to think, and that diversity of thought adds complexity, yes, but also beauty into our world. And it's something that should be celebrated, not condemned.
For more great videos, download the Walkaway Social app at walkawaysocial.com. Share your testimonial and join our community.